All right, everyone, welcome back into Two Catholic Dudes. This is episode number 14. My name is Ryan Clouse.
My name is Danny Cleary.
It sure is. And we have a guest again tonight.
Yeah, we're super lucky to have my brother, Brendan, is on the podcast. Finally.
That's me.
Yeah, so,
We almost had him on the podcast a week ago. And then we didn't.
It didn't happen.
Technical difficulties.
If you guys listened last week, you heard the whole story, so we're not going to tell it again. Unless you want us to tell it. Nope, we're not going to tell it again.
On.
The microphone didn't work. That was the story.
That was the story. Sure. So, but we're excited to have Brendan on again. You're an honorary Catholic dude.
I mean, I think I just am one.
The guys are making fun of me tonight for the way
everyone,
I say.
go back and listen to our previous episodes. And does Ryan say two Catholic dudes or two Catholic dudes? Because we've been kind of messing with him all night because it sounds super funny when he goes, dude.
It took about 4 takes to get this thing started because I kept saying, welcome to Two Catholic Dudes.
And then you burst out in laughter.
Yeah.
Uncontrollably.
We're having fun.
We're having fun.
That's what this is all about, right?
Hope you guys had a good Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
We did. No, it's not even Halloween, so we're filming ahead of time.
Yeah, so.
But now they know that.
Secret's out. This is our second nightcast in a row. Night podcast.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I actually I feel a little more energized somehow in the evening when we do the podcast. I just I think because I'm decompressed from the day, because sometimes when we film in the morning, I'm I got everything I got to do in the day on my mind. But
There's that.
All I have left to do tonight is go to bed.
We did film the Halloween episode at 11:30.
I know. Yeah.
Brutal.
Anyways, we have a guest here.
That's true.
We're talking about ourselves.
Man, remember that one podcast we did 2 weeks ago and then the one we're going to do next week? Anyways.
And for those of you that are just listening, Brendan and I, because we are brothers, we do sound very similar. So, good luck.
I will sound different than you. I will try my best.
Okay. With that said, Brendan Cleary, everyone, welcome.
That's me.
Welcome to the podcast, Brendan.
Thanks.
As you just mentioned, you are brothers.
We are.
Congratulations on that. Good job.
Danny and Brendan Cleary.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. We wanted to get this going because this is our officially 14 podcasts in, our first music podcast.
Yeah.
And music is my primary thing.
I know.
And we haven't talked about it pretty much at all. I think the reason that we did that was because when I was in high school, a quick little story. When I was in high school and I would go to a house party or anything like that, I would always be the guy who brought my guitar. And I wouldn't actually talk to anybody. I'm just hey, come check out me playing my guitar. And that's the only way that I could get people to like me.
Who invited this guy?
Yeah, they're oh my gosh.
Did you put down the case to collect money?
Probably as a joke, but not as a joke, But that was the only way that I could connect with people and get people to like me was through music.
Interesting.
And I think as I got older, I was you know what? I'm gonna get to know me for me, and then I'll show you.
And you might get some music.
Then you might get some music. So I don't know. Maybe that's it. Who knows?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm excited about the music episode. I don't know a heck of a lot about music, but I'm just happy to be here.
It's also stressful, I think, too, because this is everyone's oh man, this is the episode on music. This is his forte.
You brought me on.
And we brought Brendan
to be the forte on the music episode.
Well, and I think it's also funny because I think Brendan might be the person we've talked about the most on the podcast without him being on it.
Yeah, you're like a celebrity.
So maybe the people...
I have... You told my favorite story in the world.
Oh, we have to talk about that real quick. Before we continue, Brendan,
of course,
we ask every guest, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you during Mass?
Well, you already said pretty much the craziest thing is when I was a kid and I threw up in Mass. But I actually have a different one that happened very recently.
Oh, boy.
So I just became engaged. I'm an engaged person now.
I would clap, but it would mess up the microphone.
Yeah, for sure. But at our home parish, Monsignor Hernandez, who I'm sure you guys have talked about before, he called me up after Mass was over.
Right.
Not even when Mass was over. It was right
during
before
the
announcements. He's like, Brendan, come on down here. And I was like, oh no, why? And I went up in front of everybody, and he's like, and bring up your fiance. And I was like, okay. And so she came up too, and he handed me his microphone.
The little lavalier.
The lavalier one. And he's like, yeah, put it on and tell everybody what happened.
It's still attached to him.
Well, it was. So I was like, at first I was so dumb, and I tried to put it on my ear. Then I was like, I'm not gonna. I was like, hi, I'm Brendan, and this is Aaron, and we're engaged now. And everyone clapped for us, and I was like, okay, thank you.
It was very
It
awkward.
was so nice of him to do that, though, and it was so cool. And like everyone was so nice to us afterwards. They kept coming up and talking to us.
Sure.
But it wasn't because he handed me the lavalier.
And he's just excited that you're entering into the sacrament, but exactly that hilarious moment of that this is connected to him. He's like,
over into you. Yeah.
And so afterwards, it was just like, yeah, thank you for that. But
That was super funny.
It was pretty crazy.
Dude, nice.
That's a good story.
Tied for my throw up when I was a kid. One.
Sure. So, anyways, getting into music, we all know Ryan is Mr. Music, but we brought you on for the music episode. So let's get into your guys' musical background. But like let's talk about you specifically, Brendan. How did you get involved? Because music's been a big part of your faith journey.
Oh yeah, big time. Really, what got me involved with music at all was actually like Ryan. Because when I learned how to play guitar when I was like 14. I was like in high school.
Hold on a second. On that note, because I have a story that I have to share that just came into my mind.
Go for it.
Okay, listen to this. One year on my mom's, it was Mother's Day. Okay, my younger brother and I, we like worked really hard. And like I bought my mom like a card and flowers.
I know where this is going.
And like we did all this. We like brought it to her, right? And like woke up early and like made coffee and stuff. And we were like all set. And my little brother and I were like yeah, we went on this gift together. Brendan stumbles out of bed, hair's a mess with his friggin' guitar. And he's like, "Hey mom, I wrote you a song." And he plays her the song and she cries. And I'm like sitting there like, what the?
Yep.
You wrote her a song.
I knew where that was going.
You just made it up right now.
Hey man, be a musician. That's the perks.
I was so mad.
That's the perks of the deal.
Does mom watch all of these?
Yeah, of course.
I did write it beforehand. I did not just make it up as we went.
But
It's like I'm like up early. He's like, "Hey everyone."
And I never would have been able to do that if it hadn't been for playing at mass.
Anyway,
and
I had to share story. So, anyways,
that's the perks.
that is really
that's
funny,
the perks
though.
of being a musician, man. When I was in high school, every single chance I got, I brought that guitar to school and I played for some project. Like if I had to write a poem in Spanish class, I would sing it and I would get an A+.
That's the way to do it. I wasn't good enough at guitar like when I was in high school.
Again, that was the only way that people would think I'm cool. So I just brought that guitar around with me.
Yeah. So
And now
anyway,
it's your personality. I get that.
Yeah.
so you started playing guitar at a young age.
Well, it was when I was in confirmation, like in 2009. Ryan and you would always come up with like a band or something like that, and you'd always play like on retreats and things like that. And I always thought like, that's so cool. Like I'd want to do that, but I was never really a kid that like thought that I would ever play guitar or do anything like that. But you guys came and played at a very specific like youth group night, and I came up to you and I was like, hey, like I'm gonna join the choir. And like when I was a kid, because like you seemed like this old wise man of like I am the master of music.
Yeah.
You were like, whatever, man. Like, cool. I'll be there. It's on Wednesdays. Like, just come by. And because my dad bought me a guitar.
Right.
Garbage guitar. Still have it. So I showed
We
up.
talked about that in another episode, though. Use that real bad guitar though, and make it sing.
I still have it. I
Awesome.
still play it.
That's awesome.
I went to choir practice for our church like the first time, and you're like, cool, what do you do? And I was like, I have a guitar.
What do you do? I have a guitar.
And he goes, oh, like you don't really play? I go, oh no, like I figured like I could learn
That's what always happens.
as we go. And he's like, all right, cool. Like at first I thought it was gonna be like, no, you can't do that. But he was like, all right, sick. Like there's the guy who plays guitar for us now. Just kind of study under him and we'll figure it out. And so like the first mass ever that I played in the choir, I pretended to play. I held it and I pretended the whole time.
Wow.
That's a common theme that happens, and it's about being a part of something. It's about feeling welcome because all are welcome.
Sure.
In the choir, and you might not be at the level that you want to be at, or that you need to be at, or even not even be able to play a chord yet. But that's cool. Come along and get used to it.
Sure. So when did you actually start playing guitar in the choir?
So I pretended for a long time, and then I really wanted to sing because I feel like that was a fun thing that I wanted to do. I was like, I can learn how to sing. Couldn't do that either. So I had to learn how to do that. But I learned how to do that and play guitar through being in the choir. And the reason it was easier for me to pick it up was because I had gone to mass since I was a kid. So I already knew how all the songs like went.
Right.
So it was easy. So I would say like a year or two into playing in the choirs, I was actually like playing. Like I plugged in an electric guitar to an amplifier and I was actively trying to play the songs. Still not super well, but I could still try.
And you were like in a band in high school, like you formed a band and you were the lead singer and stuff.
Yeah.
So do you think that your time in the choir like fostered that part of your life?
Everything that I've done musically is because I joined the choir when I was at that age. Wow. And it helped me build, because it didn't just like, okay, now I know how to play guitar, like I can be in a band. Like I was in my band because I knew how to play with other people. That was kind of a big like stepping stone.
Oh, interesting, which is a skill like learned in the choir.
Yeah, then that's something that like when a lot of like guitar players that I see like in choirs or in like some like other places that just they can play guitar really well, but they don't know how to play with other people. That was something that I learned how to do like really well, and that's like what I like tried to be really good at, was being able to play with a band and learn when it was my time to play and when it was not my time to play.
As a director, is that something that you like stress when you're like?
It's a huge skill, obviously, you know, and you almost are stunted in your growth when you're only playing by yourself. Obviously, you should probably learn your basic chords first, but you can hold yourself back if you're only playing by yourself, because you don't have that communal aspect where when you're playing with a song at mass or even at rehearsal, people are not going to stop. They're not going to stop the song because you don't know how to play a B minor chord. You got to just figure it out or move on to the next chord, and that ends up making you learn faster and growing much quicker. And it's a whole communal thing, and you learn how to play in time with everyone and make mistakes and move past it, and you know, it's a really intricate, interesting thing to be able to do that. It teaches you so much more about just life and participating in a group than just music by itself.
Well, I think it's really interesting that it ended up like moving into your rock band in high school, because it all came from like the foundation that you had in joining, you know, the church choir. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I had like played like when I was in the band, I had to be the lead singer, and I was never really that good at singing. But like I would always play and like sing and like in front of like not a lot of people, but like a little bit. I never really had nerves, but the first responsorial psalm I had to do was the most nervous I ever was to do any kind of singing in any capacity.
And they say when you're nervous, it's because you care.
Yeah,
really.
That's funny, because there was a girl that just this morning, we're filming this on Sunday evening, just this morning it was her very first time singing the psalm at the same choir that I'm directing right now that Brendan was in.
Wow.
This was her first time being a psalmist, because, you know, it's cyclical. There's the kids, they're in high school, so, you know, our seniors are going to move on, and we got to train some new kids.
Yeah,
and so, you know, I told her, you know, is this going to be the best performance of your lifetime? It's not a performance, but is it, you know, is this going to be the best you've ever sounded? Probably not, but it's important to get up there and do it. You're going to be really, really nervous, but that just means you're alive, right? If you're not nervous, you're probably not alive. And she did a really good job.
She did.
I was so proud of her.
And above everything else, she used that courage to proclaim that psalm to the congregation.
Exactly.
And like, regardless of if you hit all the right notes, I don't know nothing about music, but as long as she wasn't about hitting all the right notes or the right keys or anything like that. She just went up there and proclaimed.
Was she doing it honestly and openly from the heart?
Exactly.
That's what people can feel, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and who knows who it inspired that she got up and had the courage to do it, you know?
Yeah, if the greatest singer in the world comes up and proclaims the responsorial psalm, but like they're just showing off, I think that would have a lesser effect than somebody going up and really truly speaking the word or singing the word of God.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was like, and it was always cool because when, it's kind of jumps into my story of where I was, and like, so I'll go back to that, I guess. I was in the choir, I was playing guitar. I had started from pretending to eventually I was kind of like the lead guitarist. I was like the main instrument guy for a while, and then eventually when, you know, things shifted around and leadership was moving around, Ryan was like, hey, I need someone to lead and to direct the choir for the teens. And I need it to be you, because no one else, I don't have anyone else that can do it, and I can't pull myself away, so it needs to be you. And I was like, wow, that's a whole extra step. Like, you know, like playing a guitar and singing opposed to directing a whole choir of people and like instruments as well. Like that's a whole nother beast. And that was a whole nother thing that I had to learn how to do. But by the end of it, it became second nature and it became easy, and it was scary at first, of course, but it made me a way better musician because it kind of forces your hand. It's like, it's time to sink or swim. What are you going to do? And most times I would sink, but eventually start paddling your way back up to the surface and
I think
get yourself going.
A lot of things in life, you know, you're going to get thrown into situations that might not be comfortable. And it's either, you know, you step up, you own it, and you get to where you need to get to. You might not be perfect right off the bat, but like that's the way you grow is to just step up to that challenge instead of saying, oh no, you know, that's too much for me, that's too hard for me. Right. And you know, Brendan, you really stepped up to that challenge, and you you know, you've shined over these last few years, and you've been a key proponent in these choirs. I will say, I want to go back to something you said. You said at one point I was the lead guitarist, and I know you said it in one way that you were kind of leading everybody else, but I want to talk about how bad the music used to be when I was leading the choir, because where my mindset was that it was lead guitar, like rock solo shredding guitar. Because I mentioned it before. The way I learned music was playing heavy metal guitar. Sure. Playing Metallica and Pantera and Slayer, right? That was music for me, and that's really the only I knew like oldies when I was a kid. My parents would play K-Earth 101 for me, but then I got into heavy metal, and like everything else wasn't music. This is all there was, and I had just such a narrow scope. Just like I just want to shred all day long. And so when I started playing in the choir, and obviously we're not playing heavy metal, but I wanted to bring in that metal aspect to everything we did. And I didn't really know much about liturgy at all. And I don't know, it's a curse and a blessing, because thankfully for me, our pastor at the time, once I started taking over as director, was probably like, what are they doing? But he just kind of let it go. But at the same time, I wish somebody would have come up and been like, hey man, like this probably isn't right. I don't think you should be doing mass like that, or singing this song or playing it like that. Right. And I learned very slowly over time, because no one just like pulled me aside and said like, here's what you need to do, A, B, and C. And it was weird. I want to tell one story. Go ahead.
Well, it's interesting that you say like no one really pulled you aside, because it was you that made me aware of that and conscious of that, because like it was gradual, but it was also kind of like one day you were like, I know what I should be doing. Right. And that was the time where I was like just now starting to lead and help you with that. And you were like, this is how we're doing it from now on. Like this is how it's supposed to be done, and this is how it should be done. And at first I was very like, but that's not as cool and not as fun. But now I'm like, I'm all about it. And it makes it so much easier to like be in it and be a part of it.
And you guys are talking about like going more liturgically correct, like in your song picking and, you know, how you're playing the music and things like that.
Correct. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Okay. So because I think I got to a point in my spiritual, my musical, my faith journey that I realized that I didn't have that formation period in this ministry. I was kind of just given time to figure it out at probably the entire congregation's expense. But once I figured it out myself, I realized how important it was to share that with anyone that I could, with Brendan as my now assistant director, or any of the kids in the choir. Probably 100%, 99.9% chance none of them are going to go on to be professional, liturgical music ministers. But I want to teach them as much as I can about the liturgy, about music, about life when they come to choir practice, and our adults too, even.
And I think that's honestly really a beautiful thing, because since we started the podcast, and I didn't really fall in love with the liturgy until honestly very recently, to the point where it's I really am trying to grasp it, the whole thing. Right. And I think when you were saying it was just I wanted to do it my way, and I think that's so cool that you're I want these kids that are in my choir, or these members that are in my choir, to have the same appreciation for the liturgical that you do. And I think that's really cool.
I think it goes back to the sports episode when we talked about soccer and how I don't really like soccer.
Right, because you don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't know. I know how to play basically, but I don't know the intricacies of the game. Yeah. And until I do, I can't fully appreciate it.
Yeah, and like, well, because like, you know, there's so many like times where you're singing. I've noticed more and more that like you guys will pick songs, depending on the readings of the day and stuff like that, where they all like where it all lines up.
So let me give you a rundown of a little bit about how I go through and pick the songs for masses each week. And I learned this from one of my biggest mentors, John Flaherty. I took a pastoral liturgy class with him at Loyola Marymount University, and he gave me this advice, and I kind of really took it to heart. But when I'm planning a liturgy, I will. You're able to write the penitential act invocations. You know, Lord, you were sent to heal the contrite. Lord have mercy, and so on and so forth. You're able to write those 3 lines yourself, as long as they're centered on Jesus, and you can take it a step further and focus them on the readings, and that's what I do. So I read reading number 1, and I internalize it, and I analyze it, and I say, what is this really about? And if I need to, I read commentary, and then I sum that up in 1 line and put it in the invocation for the first Lord, hear our prayer. And then I read the second reading, put that for the second one, and then I read the gospel and put that for the third one. And so now I have a complete picture of what Mass looks like. Mm-hmm. And I then have, I have formed what it's going to look like, and I can choose songs based on that. And then not only it helps me pick the songs, but the congregation gets a little bit of a preview if they're paying attention. And you do it enough weeks, and they're going to start to get it. That these 3 are little snippets of previews of the 3 readings that they're about to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, I do this at Mass all the time, is I'm always listening to the readings, and when the line that's used in the penitential act comes up, I'll always kind of shoot with a look of like, there it was, because I love it. I
give him a little wink. I'm like, yeah.
Like, there cool. It is. And I love it. And like that, I didn't even realize that made me pay attention so much more intently as it did. Because I'm looking for that and it makes it so much easier to sing like with that passion you need to get, I don't know, the point across of how important Mass is and how important these readings are.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we always try to like teach in any kind of choir that we've ever done is like, yeah, sing it, but like feel it. You know what I mean? Enjoy it.
Well, because even though you guys are singing, it's still a prayer.
Exactly.
You're at Mass, so it's you're singing these songs, but we're praying together through the music.
And that was where I had to change my mindset from a 15-year-old kid who wanted to play metal. Mm-hmm. Even when I took over as director at like 22 years old, all I cared about was making sure the band was sounding cool, and I wanted the drums to be rocking. And I was like, when can we get a distortion guitar in here? Like, that should not have been anything that I was thinking about.
Right.
And it was when I shifted the focus that like, the band is not the priority. It's what we are singing. It's the words. It's the choir. It's everything.
Well, what I've noticed from you, especially recently, because like you've grown liturgically like a ton in the last couple of years, and like not that, and I've just noticed as someone that doesn't really know a whole lot about music, but like there are times where like Mass, it would almost seem like there was Mass and then like performance of a song, and then Mass and then a performance, but like now the way that you guys do music and the way that you've structured everything is it's all one prayer together. Like everything is it's Mass.
Yeah, that's the idea. Right?
It's not a we're doing Mass and then there's a song. Like we're always in that Mass.
And I think that's why so many traditionalists that they're like, we should go back to Gregorian chant only. That's their gripe, is that it is a performance, and they're probably griping at 15-year-old or 22-year-old me who was making it a concert. Right. Absolutely, I had no idea what I was doing, and no one told me no.
Right.
But now I realize, they're not songs. They're prayers that we are singing together with the congregation. And again, that's a big thing that we learned together is like, it's not about me. Even when I'm singing a solo or being the psalmist or whatever, it's how much can we get the congregation to sing so we're all lifting up our voices together. Right. That's the goal. Yeah. That's the goal for us to come together as one,
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you a funny story that about like how bad it really was for the craziness of the music that we played. Again, heavy metal guitar. It was Christmas Mass, like, I don't know, 2002, 2003 or something. And you guys know that song, Carol of the Bells, but like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra one.
Yeah. The one that rocks.
The one that everyone thinks is Metallica. They're like, the Metallica Carol of the Bells. Yeah, it's Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Like hardcore rock.
The hardcore rock one with the heavy. We're like, let's do that for the closing song. And there's no words in that. It's just the heavy metal guitar.
Like, Joy to the World? Heck no. We're going to do guitar.
Yeah. And I don't even think we asked the pastor, because we're like 20 years old. And we're like, let's just do it. And we just shredded. And the drums were so loud and the guitar was obnoxious. And I don't know. I don't even know if the parents were like, that's cute, or they're like, doing one of these and walking out. But it kind of turned into
like a tradition.
It did, yeah.
And we did it for like 8 years.
Yeah.
At least. And it's embarrassing to look back at.
Well, because when you look at that, it was more about like, oh, that song at the end was cool, not I just celebrated the Holy Mass. Right, maybe
on such an important mass,
and I was like, oh yeah, Carol the Bells shreds on Christmas Eve,
right?
And I'm missing it completely.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's all about, but like that, it's all about growth. You've grown into that more understanding.
It's funny you bring that up too, because I'm gonna put someone a little bit on blast here, but my fiance Erin, her parents refrained from going to Christmas Eve masses at Holy Cross where we would do that because they weren't about it. They're like, that's not what it's about.
Heck yeah.
Where were they?
Good for them.
Where were they when I needed the
but I remember,
should have come and told me.
But I remember that too, because she would tell me like, yeah, we don't go because that's not what it's about. And I was like, lame. Like, why are you guys so lame? Like, this song is so cool, but like, I get it. Like, I 100% get it now.
Because, especially now, because like if that was to happen now, I would be furious with you. I'd
absolutely.
be like, what are you doing?
Like, that has nothing to do with anything. That was just for you. That was about you, and that is not cool. That's not cool at all.
And that's it. You've made the music now about you, and I think that's a lot of people's gripe, is you're making the music about you.
Absolutely.
And not about like who are you praying to.
And I think this comes down to, we talked about it in our retreat episode, but it comes down to the culture. What culture do you have in your choir, in your church? And the culture was, it's about us. It's about like a concert. And there was nobody that told us no. And that culture was just self-fulfilling, and it was snowballing, and it got weirder and weirder. It was wild, man. And it took... I don't even know that there wasn't a definitive moment for me, but
I think it was a progression.
It was a progression,
of a better understanding and honestly a deeper dive into your faith spiritually, as well as educating yourself liturgically. Because I think that you got to know God more, and then you felt more like, oh, I get what Mass is now. Like, Mass is worship. Mass is not a show.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's a time for like, and don't get like, there's plenty of time for rocking music for God. Plenty of times for that. It's just not
in Mass.
Not in Mass.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is, I think, what we're talking about. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't do like upbeat songs and stuff now, but I know where the time and place is appropriate for it.
Right.
We used to do, I was just talking to Brendan about this before, like for communion, there was a song, it's kind of an upbeat song, but we made it like really
upbeat. And we like mashed it up with a different song.
Yeah, it was completely unsingable for the congregation, but it was, we used to do it for communion. And right at the beginning, when the pastor or the priest was, they had just received the Eucharist on their own, and they were going out to give it to the altars or to the Eucharistic ministers, and we would go, 1, 2, 3, snare! Like, that was how we started the song, and we all came in just like distortion and like,
oh no.
And again, very embarrassing to think about now that we did stuff like that.
It's funny now because you'd be mortified.
I'd be mortified
if that happened.
And my 22-year-old self would be like, man, what a nerd.
Yeah.
36-year-old
That was
Ryan.
sick. Did you hear that sweet fill, man? Like, get out of here. That was awesome.
But that's the culture that we had. And,
right.
and there was no formation, and there was no one to tell me no. And there was no one to tell anyone no. And I think that's a huge mistake. We're shooting ourselves in the foot.
We
got a lot more to talk about. We got a break for change out this camera right now. Check out all our ads. We don't have any ads yet, but we'll be right back.
So back to what you were saying, and I think that you're like, when you kept saying that nobody was telling you no, which I think, yes, we all need that, honestly, for someone to be like, hey, like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes we need people to be more blunt and say like how it needs to be, and like, whereas, yeah, like Mass and like lay people doing music and stuff, like, it's valid by the church. Like, you can do Mass like that. Like, it's just how it is. People disagree, but it's valid. So that's how you do it. But I think that it's more important than just, oh, no one told me no, but you needed to go through this growth period where you have a way better understanding of the Mass. You have a way better connection spiritually to the songs that you're singing, to the prayers that you're singing. And I think that that's important too. So I think that you almost had to go through that transitional phase of not understanding so that you could get to the point you're at now, so that now these kids that are in the choir have that better understanding of what it really is that they're singing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's just a little unfortunate for the congregation, because I do think, again, we talked about the journey last week, going through the struggle, and I think it was a struggle in a lot of ways. It was a struggle for our congregation, because they're probably like, this is awful. But it was necessary for me, for my process. But at the same time, was it? Because, I kind of took you under my wing, and we learned and grew, but you never were directing without that direction.
No, I mean, I still don't even direct it 100% now. Like, I'm always deferring to you anyways to like.
Yeah, I'm like behind I play piano and he's up there
Yeah.
directing, and I always like give him little head nods and signs and stuff like that. But I tried to mentor you as much as possible so that you had that sense of formation and direction. But I think when it comes down to it, and this is tough in ministry, because people are afraid, especially lay people in positions in the church. They're afraid of like letting people go or moving them to a different position or firing them altogether. They're like, oh, but it's a ministry. We can't do that. So our pastor, back then, he's probably like, oh man, these guys are not doing a great job musically, but like, I can't fire them. What am I going to do? Well, you probably should have just talked to us at least,
Well, I think that's it. There's a way to say like, hey, here's what I need you to do differently.
Exactly.
There's a difference between that, I think.
Yeah. And I like that you talked about, some people are upset that like the Novus Ordo Mass and all this modern music and everything. But I think no matter what setting of music that you're playing, it's a matter of placing importance on it, because knowing that this is the liturgy, this is Mass, and this is the utmost importance, and holding the music accountable to that, and lifting it up, and taking care and dedication to that, no matter what you do, I think is super important.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that can really connect with a Mass in that way. I mean, I love it, honestly, when I can sing along with a song. Like today, I'll share. Today during Mass, like I said, I've fallen in love with Mass in a way that I haven't never really experienced before within the last, honestly, like several months. We talked about it on the struggle episode, where like I just kind of surrendered, said, you know what, God, whatever. But like today during Mass this morning, like I teared up during after like the post communion, when I was just kind of in my own prayer. I was just singing and like I was like, wow, like this is. I was so in it because I could sing to God and just praise the fact that He was within me Eucharistically, and the music helped me to foster that understanding that
Jesus is my everything.
Yeah, like
gets it every time.
Yeah, like that was the song, and like those words, like Jesus is my everything, and like knowing that I had just consumed the body of Christ, like He was my everything in that moment.
Yeah,
He encompassed my whole soul, and I was and like that song helped me to connect in that Mass. So like. I don't know, like, and I don't know if I would have been able to do that if it wouldn't, had been different. But like, I don't know, it was just a really awesome experience. So that's just one thing for you guys. I don't know if you knew, but today your music was rad.
Thank you. That brings me to a question for Brendan.
Yes,
it's kind of a question for myself too, and we've talked about it briefly in one episode. But my question is like, when we're playing music at Mass or singing, does it help elevate your prayer life? Or elevate your prayer experience at Mass, or does it hurt it, or some weird amalgamation of both, or like how does it sit for you?
I think that initially, when you're in a choir like that and you are singing at Mass, it's impossible to not be self-conscious of it and be kind of in your own space about it, because you're like, oh, I'm singing, like I see people in front of me, like I'm singing and praying and stuff, and that's important, but like. You're still thinking like, oh, I want to sound good. I'm nervous about this in the future. So like, without a doubt, it was definitely at first pulling me away because I was like, like I'm at Mass, but I'm at Mass to do this song. And it took a long time until I went, yeah, I'm doing this song, but like, that's the last thing that I'm worried about. You know what I mean? It's coming up and everything like that, or, oh, I have a solo or something, but I try. I mean, and you catch yourself in it every now and again of like, oh, like we're chit-chatting about whatever. We're like, oh, like this and this didn't go well, or this and this is not going great. But it always comes back to, like, catch myself and stay in it and
Where-
try to
where
keep
are we
my
right now?
where are we? Stay present.
And what's important?
I learned this again from my mentor John Flaherty. It's, if something goes wrong or if something goes right, don't acknowledge it. Sometimes I give you little winks. That's as much as I'll do. But
I think you've done a great job of like establishing that like it doesn't matter. Like it happened and now it's over.
Yeah.
Like, you always tell the kids like, what happens if you go up there and you bomb? It doesn't matter.
You walk
because
back
you're
and-
not because they're not here. They didn't pay a ticket to see you sing.
Yeah. The episode last week where the cantor said the wrong thing to announce the song, like the initial reaction is to want to come back after they said that, like, the next part of Mass, and they like, can you believe that I said that? Can you believe that I did it? I go, stop.
Doesn't matter.
This is not the time. This is not the place.
Well, it's funny that you should say that because we've talked about it before, and I think that the moment I realized that music at Mass needed to be like different, and I kind of started to be like, ugh, I don't like the performance style of Masses, because we'd go to like Youth Day, and you and I have talked about it before, and like the post-communion song is this kid up there on the big screen singing a solo, and then the whole arena erupts in applause. Like, why are you applauding this kid for singing?
Yeah.
You have Jesus within you. Like,
Yeah.
why are we not applauding Jesus? Like, you should be in, like, you know what I mean? And it really,
Yeah.
I remember that Mass, I was like, I didn't go to Youth Day the next year because it really, really bothered me.
Sure.
Because I was like, dude, we are now elevating this kid's singing performance above the Eucharist. And it really bugged me.
I almost, I mean, I'm not going to not play it, but on Christmas Eve, I always play Oh Holy Night. And 9 times out of 10, for the post-communion meditation, and 9 times out of 10, everyone applauses right there. And
I don't think they did last year.
No, they definitely didn't.
they do
last
it.
year.
They do it at my other church every single
okay.
time. And I'm like, ugh, I almost want to keep playing quietly after I finish the last big note, so that they're like, oh, this is, and then just kind of like slowly fade out, so that they don't, because it's so awkward, and that's not what it's about. You got to sing that song, and I love that song. It's one of my favorite Christmas songs. But like,
It's so interesting that you bring that up too, because there are so many, like, there's such a, you see a difference in yourself. Like, because I remember like sitting and just listening to that song and being like, this is great. But like the last few years, like sitting and like listening to the words of that song and like listening to that song specifically, like it's meant to be played in that exact spot, the way, and like powerfully like that.
right.
You know what I mean? And like you have to catch yourself and just listen and like understand what it is, and then you just feel this overwhelmingness of like yes, that's right, this is what I feel. Like that's the words of the song,
Yeah, like this is a holy night.
this is a holy night, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
So if you're watching this and you hear Ryan sing a holy night, don't clap.
he doesn't want it.
I don't want it.
clap. He appreciates it, but he's singing for the Lord.
That's right. That's right. Follow-up question to the one I asked a moment ago. So, because I feel, for me, I feel the same way where like, sometimes I do feel distracted.
It's impossible to not be.
Especially when I'm directing. I'm playing piano, I'm directing, I'm moving, all these moving parts.
Of course.
I try to find moments to really center myself, but it's impossible not to be distracted. But I do feel in other ways it lifts me up, right? But my other question to you is, when you're not singing or playing or directing or anything, if you go to another Mass or whatever, do you feel it's distracting listening to music? Or because you were, my question, I guess, is like, are you over analyzing it or judging or whatever?
Yeah,
my answer is going to be kind of long because it kind of comes with a story. I don't know if we want to go super into it.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I would say absolutely, especially when I'd go to Holy Cross and listen to the music. That's all I would pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
But in March of this year, I broke my ankle. And that was the first time I'd ever been really injured in a long time. Ever. And so I couldn't walk, I couldn't drive. Like, it was very badly broken. I was on crutches, so hard for me to get around. And from March until I could walk again, which was like late May, early June, I really didn't go to Mass because I was like, it's too much on putting it onto someone else. Someone has to drive me there. Someone has to bring me the communion. Someone has to drive me back. I hated being so dependent on everyone else. So I was like, it's so much easier if I just don't go. And And that was around the same time, like beforehand, I would always go to mass and be like, this music sucks. Like, I can't wait to go home and tell Ryan how bad it was. And like, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
But when I was away for so long, I remember like this just overwhelming feeling of just like, I should go.
Yeah.
I want to go, but like, it's easier to not. And when I finally like, it was Easter, my fiance now was like, I don't care if your ankle's broken. I'm coming to your house and you're going.
Good on you, Aaron.
Crutch up and let's go. Good job, Aaron.
And I remember I was like so mad. I was like, oh, like this is just like everyone's gonna be like, oh, what happened to your ankle? What happened to you? And that did happen.
He's at home like having to put on like dress pants over his boot. He's like, ugh.
I was so mad about it. And then I received, and I just felt amazing. Like if anyone ever
God,
like
man.
has a question or like ever like, because like before it's so hard to be like, if someone asks like, oh, like it's the real body of Christ, like how do you know? It's like, I don't like, because it is. Now it's like it is 100% because of the difference that I felt. Because I had never really had a moment of like, God, or like amazing light shine, but like that. When I went and received after not for weeks.
Dude,
Praise God.
that's powerful, man. That is powerful.
But then this goes back to the question at hand is ever since then, I go to mass every week and I never try to, if I have to miss it, it's because I'm laid up in bed or something like that. But since then I haven't missed. The music is playing, but I go, I don't care. It doesn't, there could be no music. There could be bad music. There could be the best music in the whole world. But like me now, I'm so in tune with that because I now know what it's like to not have it.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And that's what it should be about, because even though we're talking about the importance of music is not the centerpiece of mass. It's far from.
But like, to answer the
to
question,
elevate only.
is like, is it a distraction when I'm in mass now? Not anymore, but absolutely.
Sure.
Beforehand.
Right, and I think that's a powerful thing. We're going back to like your growth, and it's like, but like your growth too. It's like growing to the point of where you were like I love what you just said of it doesn't matter. There could be music, there could be great music, there could be bad music. It doesn't matter because you're not there for that. You're there because you're there you're to receive and to praise God and to be in that Eucharistic celebration. And the music is the music.
I will say, and that's amazing for all the people that feel the power of the Eucharist, that they don't need music. They don't need an amazing looking church. They don't need all this pomp and circumstance and hullabaloo and everything. But there's a lot of people that do need to enter into a true relationship to Christ. They need to be entered in through the beauty. They need to feel things. We're human beings, and we need to feel those true emotions, and music brings that out of people. So that's why I was going back to bringing your A game. No matter what, you have to play music like your life depends on it, because your life and your soul.
Well, because people's souls depend on it.
People's souls depend on it. You know.
Wow, I love that. I haven't really thought about that, but like, yeah, really.
Right? Because if we just want to phone it in one day, and someone goes to mass for the first time that Sunday, and they're like, oh, or comes back to mass, and they're like, I think I want to give it another shot, or I'm looking at being Catholic, and they go and they're like, that this church looks like whatever, the homily was like whatever, this music was awful, I don't want to come back.
Right.
So every single Sunday, I can't do a homily, I can't paint the church and decorate it and everything, but I can bring my absolute best in music.
Well, what you do in that is you're using the gift that God gave you to glorify Him and to help others to understand. Even if it's just for them to be like, maybe the first time was they show up and it's like, wow, I came because the music was rad and it was beautiful and I felt something. I felt connected. And then they come back the next week and then the next week, and then eventually they then start to feel more in tune with their spirituality and things like that. And maybe the music is what gets them in the door, is I think what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
And that's a beautiful thing.
You draw them in with the beauty, and Jesus will do the rest.
Right.
But you gotta bring it though. And so many people, they do phone it in, or they I don't know. Like I'm always about learning and growing. And if I was still the 22-year-old version of of who I was when I was leading choir. I mean, I hopefully would be fired by now, but
but I love what you said, the fact that you're like, I'm seeing every mass as if I could be touching someone's heart and helping someone to find the beauty of Christ. I love that. I think that's awesome. Because that's how we should pray. That's how we should live every day. And the fact that that's how you view when you're playing at mass is a really cool thing. I think a lot of times what people don't understand when people give or have issue with choir directors or music ministers and things like that. But I think that you speaking, I'm sure there's plenty of awesome music ministers that feel the same way that you do.
Absolutely.
We've met several of them. They're totally on fire for that.
Incredible, yeah.
I think that's it's really cool.
It's tough, man, as a musician to find that humbleness. That's not a innate trait in musicians. It's always about the ego, and it took a long time to get rid of that. Right. For me and for a lot of people. So,
one thing that it's funny you bring that up, the ego of it, because that's such a big part of it. And I would always be like, I'm gonna do this song, and I can't wait for someone to be like, hey, that was really good, that was really bad. And the way that I've tried to keep that in check is I actually stole it from Gabe. He was on the podcast at one point.
Gabe.
Whenever anyone ever goes up to him and goes like, hey, your talk was really good or your prayer was really good, he doesn't say thank you. He would always just say, Praise God, man.
Praise God, man.
And I've been doing that, and at first I kind of felt silly about it because it's that's just a weird thing to say, but it really helps. It's man, you sounded so good. He goes, hey man, praise God, that's what we're here to do. And I'm like, man, that's because then because when he says that, it opens my eyes. You're right, absolutely. And
you're so heck yeah, praise God,
and,
right?
Praise God, man. Everything that I have, everything that I get to do, being able to do this at all,
Amen.
I'm so lucky that I get to do this.
Yeah, and it goes back to your story of because music and being able to play music and have music in your life is a huge part of your life now, both in mass and not in mass. You know, and that all was fostered because you stumbled into a
my
church
entire
choir
relationship with Christ and with mass started with music and started with that because it sparked my interests when I was young.
Yeah,
because one day you brought your A game. And I listened and I went, I'm into it. And I want to be a part of it.
Even if I didn't know what I was really doing at the time, I was just kind of mucking around too. But, it spoke to him, and, God was working through.
Well, God used you to inspire his heart, and then we don't know who, God uses you to inspire others. We never know.
Exactly. Thank goodness that happened. But now I'm trying to be much more conscious about it so I can hopefully reach these kids.
Yeah, and I think that, you know what I mean? It's growing. It's growing with Christ. It's growing as a community as a whole. You know what I mean? If someone comes into the choirs or something like that at any kind of mass or any kind of church, I've come to do this. Even if their mindset's not where it needs to be initially, it's being in those choirs. It's being in those experiences. You can't help but not pick it up or help understand. But that I think goes back to what you're saying, which is challenging those liturgical ministers and challenging those priests, those people at parishes. You got to bring people in who get it, and you got to try to.
Oh yeah, this is where we're getting towards an hour right now. Don't even get me started because we're gonna have a whole podcast on. I think this topic that you're just hinting at right now.
Well, then to stay on the topic of the importance of God using that to inspire people, and maybe God using music, God using the opportunity of choir to inspire people, because I have a young lady that comes to my youth group every week, and she's got some special needs. But when we do an activity where we talk and we go, where did you see Christ this week in your life? Without a doubt, every week, she goes, church choir. She goes, I see Christ in church choir. I go to mass and I sing in church choir. And I don't know if she actually sings. She'll probably never have a solo. But you know what? Every single week where she identifies and where she sees the love of God in her life is being involved in church choir. And that.
And she's welcome. We bring her in. She's part of the community. And is she gonna get a solo? She I think she knows that she's not, but she's even talked about it. But she loves being there.
But she feels, and you know what she does at youth group too? when I go at the end of the night, I'll go, does anybody have any other announcements they want to make? She'll always raise her hand. Join church choir.
That's awesome.
So she's trying to then go like because guys, I found God in church choir, and I want other people to feel as cool as great as I do. I want others people feel God like I do.
Right.
So come to church choir because that's where I found it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's so awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool.
You know that you guys have brought with that. You know, it's a cool thing.
And it's that community that you feel, and you can find that community hopefully in your church in a lot of different ways. You know, you have it through youth ministry and all this, but there's so many different avenues that you can form to really bond with people and in a Christ-centered way and move towards Jesus. But I think the last thing we'll talk about is, you know, another thing that I've learned is it's more than just about the music. It's bringing people, teaching them about the liturgy, learning about what we're singing about. So I moved. It's almost like combining a little bit of Bible study because if we know the readings and the meaning behind the readings before each rehearsal or mass, we can internalize those songs we're singing and be able to pray them more meaningfully and heartfelt. And I think it's regardless of the notes that you're singing, people will feel that emotion. And I think, you know, having that shift in mentality in the way I run the rehearsals, I'm sure Brendan absolutely has felt it with, you know, praying before Mass and doing those little Bible studies. It's engaged the kids on a much deeper level. And so together we end up growing in community, we grow in musicianship, and we grow in our spirituality together.
Yeah, I love that because it's like, even if you're like, hey guys, this is like, I'm going to read the reading. This is the reading that we're singing about today. And here's what God is saying in this reading. Now let's sing about it. Mm-hmm. Super cool.
Yeah. Rather than just like, let's do this song.
Yeah. Here's the song.
Right.
It doesn't matter why it says what it says,
Exactly.
but like instead, here's why it says what it says. Here's what God is trying to convey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's something that I always try to do and try to remember to do is like when you know, when it's a song that we've heard a million times, that you sing like really, really fast, like a song that everybody knows, like Table of Plenty.
Table of Plenty.
Like
that's what I was going to say.
Or like the song Yes, I Believe is the one I'm thinking of specifically because that was one everyone always does. Whether or not you think you know it or not, you do. You've heard it a million times.
Yeah.
Is eventually you kind of get really complacent with those songs. For sure, for me, I know, like you for sure. Like we'll be like, we're doing this one again. But what I'll always like try to tell the kids, and because I tell them to make me do it too, is like read what you're doing first, read the words out, and like imagine like it's a prayer, like legitimately, like, and sing it with that kind of feeling that you think is behind it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like one of the lines of the song, the Yes, I Believe that I said is, and together we'll sing, yes, I believe, I believe, I believe. And like, you can say it, and like, you say, when you say it, like, it's awesome. It's like a joyous proclamation of what you are doing, opposed to just singing whatever. Like, I'm more concerned with how the melody goes than what the word is.
Right.
And I'm like, no, the words are so important.
That's the prayer.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the message.
Guys, we're almost at an hour. We could talk circles around.
We could keep going.
We could talk so long about music. What I want to say is maybe because we're gonna have multiple episodes on music, just like we're gonna have multiple episodes on youth ministry topics and confirmation and retreats and all that. Put in the comments what specifically you guys would like to hear about us talk about music.
Yeah, and put them in the comments if you disagree with us.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to talk to everybody.
Yeah, but that way, if you guys really show us what you want, that we can hone in, because right now we were just kind of round robin right now, just whatever we were feeling, but
we don't know. Sometimes the Spirit takes us on journeys we're not ready for, but it's cool.
The notepad was not followed.
Yeah, we write down on
that happens every time. It happens every time. It happened with Gabe too.
The Spirit moves. I know with Gabe's episode we had like 12 notes.
I didn't even look at it.
Yeah, you didn't look at it once.
Anyway, we do want to thank you, Brendan, for coming on and talking with us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll definitely probably have to have you back, obviously, because we're doing more music.
Unless it gets like really bad viewership, and it's like can't bring Brendan back because it didn't do so.
So guys, watch it and comment if you want Brendan to come back.
The only way we ever lose followers is when Ryan makes puns. Then we lose
man,
followers.
you guys, I made some like amazing dad jokes / puns on our captions for Instagram, and we lost like 10 followers.
literally, like within an hour of him posting.
I know that was one.
Brendan's one of them.
I don't know, man. I think I'm pretty funny. I got awesome jokes.
Also, you're gonna
Those
be mad.
10 people did not think
You're
so.
gonna be mad at me, but we have to close with you forgot our catchphrase again.
No way!
Yeah.
Again, you guys, we gotta have like a sign behind your head that says.
You gotta get a producer that like
the cue card.
Yeah, how do I keep doing this?
We'll do it as our sign off again.
We could do it all three together.
What's the catchphrase?
Okay, Brandon's got it now. Okay, we're gonna do it together right as we finish.
Yeah, again, so thank you, Brendan, for coming on.
Thanks
we
for
had a
having
great
me. It was
time. Give us
super
a
fun.
follow on Instagram. Please consider being a patron. That helps this channel to grow. Comment in, helps the algorithm. We are looking at getting coffee mugs real soon. So if anyone is out there that is a graphic designer and coffee mug maker,
Drinking coffee for nighttime podcast.
Stuff coming soon. So if you're interested in that, like if you get a coffee mug, comment so we know.
Do all the things, click all the things, subscribe, hit the likes, put your thumbs up, whatever.
Yeah.
We want to hear it. We want to see it. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep it up.
Right?
And as always, we're not
priests. Okay, here we go. Together. Ready? We're
not
priests.
priests.
We're not theologians. We're just two Catholic dudes.
We're just two
and
Catholic
talking about
dudes and Brendan.
Guys, we're not priests. We're not theologians. We're just two Catholic dudes. We're talking about our faith. Wow.
Thank you for listening. We'll catch you guys real soon.
See ya.